So now let's create a basic scene. What you'll need first is a terrain, so game object, 3D object, and then terrain. I like to rename it, so if you hit F2 and it'll rename the object. And I'm going to rename that main menu terrain. And I'm just going to right click in the project pane, go to import package and import environment. Just so then we get a basic starter set for terrain textures, trees, etc, etc. And also we also get water. So just import that. Okay, now that that is done, select the terrain again, select the paintbrush tool, which is the fourth tool in, and then go to edit textures, add texture, click select, and type in sand. And you should see there's a sand albedo, click add, and I'll just add it as the default texture for the terrain. For those of you that haven't used Unity before, you can navigate around the scene view. If you right click on your mouse, you can pan the camera around in orbit. Middle mouse lets you drag the camera around, and if you right click and then press WASD or any of the WASD followed by shift, and you'll also be able to like free roam, like free cam roam around the scene. What we want to do now is add in the water. So go into standard assets, environment, water. Well, you have to water and water basic, because now all the Unity 4 Pro assets are free in Unity 5. You can see a massive difference between what was this, basic daytime and Pro daytime, as you can see. So we'll be sticking with just the well, in quotes Pro for Unity 4.6 water, and we'll be using water 4 because it's more, the scene we're creating is more like an island with an ocean for the main menu. So water 4 prefabs and water 4 advanced, just because it has a few more configurable properties. Ensure that the Y is set to 0, and just ensure that X and Z are set to 250. Send it centered in the middle of the terrain, and drop the terrain by height of -20. -10. Okay. Undo that. Select the water 4 advanced parent, so that. Press R to bring up the scale tool, and just scale it up. It helps if you change the viewport if you do these type of things. Just then you can see how big you are scaling stuff in. Okay, so just scale it so it covers the terrain quite nicely. And we're going to remove just some of that jaggedness, because it looks a bit too jagged for my liking. So if you click on Water for Advanced, click on the shared material in the water base, which will highlight it in the project window. Then click that material, and all of those properties in the shader is what drives the tessellation in the material. And what we want to change is the base color to be a little bit more tropical. Reduce the alpha a bit. And there's a nice turquoisey type blue. And you'll be able to see clearly under the water. Then just mess around a little bit with the reflection color. And finally the specular. Just turn it down slightly. And then what I want to do, because when we hold on, make sure that game maximize on play isn't checked. Just then we can switch back into scene view. You can see how it kind of bumps like a wave should, but it doesn't look all that smooth because you can see it looks a little jagged, which is what we're going to try and fix now. So if you go to wave, I believe it's wave steepness, go 3, 1, 3, 1. And then in amplitude, change that to 0.07, 0.016, 0.6, 0.2, and 0.8. Oh, not 0.8. Change that to 0.1. Basically, you need to mess around with these until you get a get an effect you quite like. That's quite nice. And then I'm just going to change the wave direction to gonna leave the wave direction for that one. That looks a lot better. Now I am just going to reduce the foam intensity a little to 0.3, 0.3. Cut off to be 0.25, 0.1. So that looks pretty nice. Pretty natural. What I want to do now is exit out play mode. Now this, usually what happens is when you edit stuff during play mode, it doesn't get saved. But there are certain instances where it does get saved, and editing a material is one of them. So if I go out of play mode and go back in, everything we've edited in the material remains the same, which is handy. But moving game objects, editing the terrain, stuff like that, they will not remain the same whilst you edit it in play mode. So just be aware of that. And also, when we get onto it, the new audio system, using the audio mixer, you can actually edit that in play mode. But we'll get into that in a later tutorial. Or later on in the tutorial, sorry. So now now that we have 2 bases, we're going to actually make the actual island. The easiest way I can think of to do this is if you set the paint height tool and leaving it on the first brush, set the height to not 120 but to 15, and just increase the size of the brush and just click, which as you can see is already a bit too big. So if we change that to 9, so it just goes above the waves, but that in itself is a bit not enough. So just increase that again to 13, like that, and that'll do for the moment. We'll now want to make it more islandy. Technical term, I know. So if we just smooth out the height around the island, so it's not as jagged, like so. Oh, undo. Smooth height still. Okay, that's quite nice. Just going to jump into play mode quickly to check that the wave doesn't totally cut the island, which it doesn't, so that's quite nice. So jump back to game. Still editing, we're going to add a palm tree or a few palm trees. So if you click the place trees, edit tree, add tree, where it says tree prefab, select the circle, and then because it's more tropical, scroll down to palm desktop, click add. Now all these trees that are now included in the Unity standard assets are part of speed tree, and speed trees are amazing. If you manage to get the full app, then you can basically create any tree you want to, and it's quite nice like that. Reduce the brush size so then it's only in a small area of the island, and just increase the tree density slightly. Now even though it's 64-bit editor, Unity might hang every now and again, just so it gives itself some time to process all of that data that it has to handle. As you can see, if you ever need to quickly get back and focus on something, if you press F, it'll center itself on the selected object in the hierarchy. So now that there are some trees, and there are some nice looking palm trees, you might notice that there's some like really random. You might have noticed some of these little circles appearing next to the trees. They're just acting as reflection probes just for the tree itself, so don't worry about that. And we'll cover reflection probes when we get to that stage. What we're gonna do now is the type of island I'm trying to target is, just quickly find a Google image, something along the lines of this. That's the type of island I'm trying to show in the scene. So we're going to add a few more plants, some grass, just in the very center of the island, just so it's a little bit more tropical. So to add some grass, go to the flowers next to the tree, so that's paint details, edit details, add grass texture. In the detail texture, just type in the word grass and select the grass front 1 albedo alpha, and reduce the max height to 1 and the min height to 0.5, and make sure the dry color is not orange, just slightly darker shade of green, and just make sure that's not stupid green, so lightish type green, like so. Make sure billboard's checked. And do the same for height, so that should be 1 and 0.5, keeping with scaling. Click add, and then reducing the brush size. Start painting, but obviously that's a bit too much, so reduce it even further, so it's a lot more focused. Reduce the opacity and the target strength, so it doesn't appear as much, like so. Now, I must warn you, if you have low spec computers, you may want to go easy on the grass, because it can severely impact performance. So each scene I'll also be trying to show you some performance optimizations that can be done. So then you can basically be able to run it in a web browser, which is the whole aim of this tutorial, to also run on a web browser. And each of the builds that I'll make for each part of the tutorial can be viewed on my website, and instead of actually downloading the executable file, I'll be uploading a web HTML5 version of what we'll be doing. Now, I believe we do not have a rock in here, which is correct. So for now, if you go to paint texture, edit texture, add texture, and then type in rock, select grass rock, click add. Make sure opacity is set to 100, but reduce the target strength. Select the rock itself, increase the brush size slightly, and just undo everything I just changed. Make sure the brush size is about 13. And as you can see, as I'm painting the texture, so then you can see what you're doing. It hides the trees and the grass detail, just to give it a little more flavor than just pure sand. Now we're going to add some rocks to just help complete the environment. So rocks aren't in the standard assets packages, so you can either go on the asset store, find one and buy one, or try and find a free one, or you can just Google free rock model, and I've just gone on to the free 3D meshes website and just found a quite basic low poly rock, and I'm just going to take the FBX file, and before I drag into the project window, create folder. This is going to be called art, and within the art folder, make a new folder called models, and drag the rock, and then make a new folder, and that's just going to name rock, and I'm just going to import that. Import the rock into the rock folder. Now the nice thing about Unity 5 is it can recognize not just FBX and OBJ files now, it can also recognize .blend files, and if I remember correctly, it should also be able to recognize either 3ds or .max files, but don't quote me on that. So now that there's a rock there, that's going to annoy me. There's going to be random plane there. So drag in rock 1, press F, just zoom in, find the actual plane, delete it, delete the lamp, and delete the camera, so then it is just the rock. Drag on the rock texture surface material, or your rock material, press F again to just increase the size, and it doesn't look right for a rock. That doesn't look rocky. It's too shiny for this type of rock. So if we just reduce the shininess, slightly increase the metalliciness, and reduce the albedo color slightly. Now, usually I'd then go off and find or make normal maps, height maps, occlusion maps, and all that. But just for this, I won't. I just won't, just to save a little bit of time. I'm going to just drag that back into rock, just so then there's a nice base rock that we can then just paint onto our terrain. Delete it from the hierarchy panel, reselect terrain, go to paint details, edit details, and add detail mesh, and drag in the rock. Now click add, select the rock, it is not painting it, I do believe, which is so very annoying. So edit, instead drag the cube in, click apply, and as you can see there's our rocks, but they don't look right. So all I'm going to do is edit details, edit, set the min width to 5, max width to 10, min height to 5, max height to 10, and just set the two colors to white, apply. So then it's a bit more rocky, but undo that because that's far too many. Reduce the target strength to around 0.062, and the opacity clear out the rocks, but to 0.001, 0.0001. Basically just paint them on various places around the terrain, like so. Now I'm not going to bother making it look so pretty. I'm just going to rename directional light to sun. Go to window, lighting. I'm just going to dock that to the side. And where it says sun, drag in the sun, just so then press F and then E to select the rotation tool. You can see currently the sun is just there. And we'll be doing the day-night system, I think, in the next tutorial. But just to give you a quick hint, that's basically the basis of what we'll be doing. But you're able to set the... For now, let's set the sun to be like sunset-ish. Stick a flare on it, which I do not believe we have imported yet. So right click, import package, and then effects, import. Reselect the sun, flare, and for now just do 50mm zoom, which doesn't look too great, but it will do for now. Unless in fact change it a bit. If you go to Window Asset Store, I'm just going to redock Asset Store. And if you just search the Asset Store for flare, you'll find lens flare, which is by Unity Technologies. It's a free asset. If you go ahead and download that, and import it, and then drag lens flare, just to keep a tidy project folder, drag lens flare under effects. So just drag that into effects in standard assets. So now we're going to click sun, click the sun, flare. We have a lot more to choose from, and you can see all the different types of lens flare. Now, my actual favorite lens flare to use for this is the 85mm lens. I believe is the 85mm lens. Yes, it's the 85mm lens. Just because I like this whole flare bit here, which makes it look quite nice. Now we have to reposition the camera. So if you select the main camera, go to Game Object, and then Align with View, or press Ctrl-Shift-F, and it'll just snap the main camera just there, which is really handy for placing cameras in the world. And because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, I'm just going to alter the rotation ever so slightly so that it's not skewed, which it looks quite nice like that. 16:9, which is most of your monitor resolutions, I'm guessing. Still looks fairly alright.